In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up and go through the configuration checklist for CiviCRM. After you have completed your CiviCRM installation, the second item on the post-installation screen is to use the configuration checklist to review and configure settings for your website. So if you click the link, it will take you to a CiviCRM page within your website, and it will also throw any error messages of system errors in the upper right. Those can be addressed and configured at a later time. So on this configuration checklist, there are multiple items. My recommendation is that you start from the top and work your way all the way down to the bottom, going through each link that's listed here. And this way, you won't miss any items. You'll be sure to cover every section of the CiviCRM site. So starting with the first link is the localization. So I am in the United States and I do speak English. So my default language will be English. You can set this to inherit the content management system or Drupal system languages, but I'm going to just exclusively define it here as English and leave that set to no. The default language for the contacts will be the site language, although you can select another language, leave undefined or use the language in use at this time. Currency is US dollars, separator, decimal. If you have additional currencies, you can select those here, but I'm going to stick with the default of US dollars. And then also we have some formatting here. I would recommend leaving this as is. And then the address will stay with the United States, but if you have a need to get information from other countries, you can select those here, and also other states and provinces. And if you want to be able to support multiple languages, you can check this box, but I will leave it the same. So in that one, I will click Save. And then next item is organization, address, and contact information. And so I'm going to enter in some pretty standard information here. All right, and then the county, you can enter the county information, but CiviCRM does not come with the county information, so this option will be blank. And then the organizational contact information, you can put an email address in here, and then you can put a phone number in here as well. And then save. And then next you'll enable certain components. So depending on which components you plan on using in your site, you will turn these on or off. So if you're not going to have any events, I would say you can disable this. If you're not going to use the case management tool, you can disable that. Each of these components have a distinct function. And if you need more details about the function of each component, you can visit the CiviCRM website and it'll have some documentation on there about each of these. Once you're done enabling and disabling the components that you want to use, just click Save. And then you can register your site. Since this is a demonstration and not an actual site that it will be on the public internet, I'm not going to register it. Continuing down, you can go to Display Preferences. And so this shows the information when viewing a contacts page, which section will show up. So since I have some contact information in here, I can go and open the contact reports. And I will view a constituent summary. And I have no data. So let me type a name in here. And since I use the pre-populated sample data that was provided, I can go and type names in here. If you did not use that option, this option will be, when you type something to search, it will be blank until you start entering data. So the settings of display preferences is for this particular contact page. So as you notice here, the summary, contribution, pledges, etc. correspond to the check boxes on this page. And so the fields on the forms for entering in context also correspond to these checkboxes here. You have the ability to view smart groups, which is grouping people based upon certain categories. And then you also have the ability to search. So you can turn on and off the options that you want to be able to view for each of the contexts, as well as how to search, and then the formatting of each of the names. I'm not going to change any of this, so I will click save. Then the address settings, and these are used when you're generating labels as well as letters to go out to members of the organization and contributors or donors to the organization. So the format, if you want to change the format, you can use the tokens that are available here, and it will actually, so let's say I wanted to put the country in again, I can put the country here, and as you see, it will type that country in underneath the previous box. And then the same thing for the displaying of the address, and then also the fields that you want to be able to enter in for the particular address. So if you don't want latitude and longitude, or what they call GPS coordinates, then you can uncheck those. So I'm going to uncheck those. And then if you have these address standardization from the US Postal Service, you can enter in your user ID and your web service ID, your web service URL, to have the addresses automatically standardized according to the Postal Service's standards. So once that is done, you click save. Next, use the mapping and geocoding. So if you're not using mapping or anything of that nature, you don't have to fill this in. Most people or most organizations do not use this, so I'm gonna leave that blank. All right, next you go to search settings. So this basically governs how you're able to search for content within the site. So if you want to be able to search for a contact by email, you can do that, set that option here. Also be able to search by nicknames and any other fields available. And then you just hit save. All right, next is some various miscellaneous settings related to reporting and printing of letters. So the contact trash and undelete. I usually leave this option as set to yes, because in case somebody accidentally deletes something, I want to be able to recover it without having to go and do a database restore. You also have the option for attaching PDF copies of receipts to the emails, displaying the Empowered by CiviCRM. So that is this thing down here at the bottom, powered by CiviCRM. You can turn this off if you don't want people to know the type of software that you're using. And then the file size, the maximum file size for attachments also goes here. And then if you want to use the reCAPTCHA functionality, you can use that by getting keys available and then putting those keys in here as well. And then hit save. Okay, so apparently I have a setting here that's already defined in my PHP configuration file, so it won't let me overwrite that. And then the contact types are basically the type of people that you have in your organization. There are 3 built-in contact types: individual, households, and organizations. So a group of individuals can exist in a household, but a group of individuals can also exist as part of an organization. When you fill out a contact information, it will allow you to associate that contact to that individual. It will allow you to associate that contact to the household or the organization. There are also some other default types that has been added since I used the load simple data option. So those have been associated here. If you have additional contact types you want to put in, you just click the add contact type button, and then a form will appear. They'll give you the name, the type of base contact, which most people will use either an individual or an organization, and then a description if you have one to enter. All right, going back to the checklist, then you can configure your email options. So if you use CiviCRM for sending emails to a newsletter or a mailing list, you can set the outbound options. So this includes the server settings, the port or anything of that nature. If your system is already configured to be able to send email, you can use the default option. If it's not, then you can use the SMTP address and enter in all your credentials associated with your server. Now, if you're doing testing with CiviCRM, the recommendation would be to redirect all the outbound emails to the database or disable outbound email. If you redirect it to the database, it allows you to see any formatting changes before you actually send out any emails. And then the from email addresses. So when you send the email out, you want to have who is sent from. This allows you to define those email that shows up as the from address. And then payment processors allows you to set payments. In particular, PayPal or other financial institutions will allow you to set this, allow access to it. So as you see here, there are multiple options, including PayPal. You just select the appropriate one that corresponds to the payment processor that you want to use and any other account information that is associated with that. All right, going back to the checklist. So permissions for anonymous users, this is where you would need to go in and configure, as we mentioned in the previous tutorial, for permissions about what anonymous users can and cannot see. It's better to not give anonymous user too much information, in particular being able to manage events and being able to access certain components that they should not have access to. And then you also have templates. So email templates, registration templates, event templates can all be set up through here. And then organization of contacts. So you can associate contacts with particular categories or tags. Also, you can group them together in groups. And if you have custom data that you want to track, you can create custom fields for that data set. And so basically you go in, click the custom data, add a set of fields, and you give it a name, what it's used for. So let's say you had a custom existing member ID if you're migrating from an old membership system to a new one. So you would select contacts, and then you can say this is member name, old member ID. And then you enter in the description about the old member ID, and then you allow it. You would click save. I'm not going to save this since I don't want to make that adjustment. But then you also see like fluid preferences, donor information, and constituent information are options that come with the installation. All right, going back to the configuration checklist. You have profiles, and then you have the individual components. Each component has some settings associated with it. So the Civic Contribute allows you to categorize the donations that are being made. If people want to make pledges, those can be done through here for recurring gifts. Events for event management and registration. Members for membership and sign-ups for events. The mail for newsletters. Campaign. So if you have a campaign, or longer term strategy for gathering things, you can have this campaign option set up. Case is for being able to track tasks or items or other issues that need to be dealt with. Case is for tracking similar issues. So in IT service management, everything has a ticket. This Civi case allows you to do something similar, so that everything has a case that needs to have some sort of tracking or a reassignment associated with it. And then grants are for granting funds and tracking how those are being distributed. Hopefully this video has given you some insight on how to configure your CiviCRM installation. If you have any questions, please leave those in the comment section below. Also, please give this video a thumbs up if it has helped you in any shape, form, or fashion. If you have not already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel.